Israel just celebrated its 74th anniversary last week, which is a good opportunity to talk about Zionism and Judaism. We're very happy to be joined now by Kalev, the author of the new book, Judaism 3.0, Judaism's Transformation to Zionism. Hello and welcome, and congratulations on the book.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's just start with, first of all, Judaism 3.0. Was there a 1.0 and a 2.0, or you're starting with 3.0 because this is where we are now?
This is where we are now, but 1.0 was basically the biblical Judaism up until the destruction of the temple, where the organizing principle of Judaism was the physical presence in Judea, the temple, and the sacrifices. All of those were gone once Jews went into exile and went into what I call here Judaism 2.0, anchored in the religious aspect of Judaism, the rabbinic Judaism, and the complete insularity that Jews had. They couldn't get out. Now, with over the last century, with a dramatic recede in religiosity and no more insularity, that aspect is gone. But the national aspect of the Jewish nation religion has obviously was augmented through the establishment of the Jewish state. And what I'm showing in the book is that Zionism is becoming the most relevant aspect of Judaism. That is how both Jews and non-Jews relate to Judaism, whether it's in the positive or in the negative.
Now, explain. I mean, there is so much negative around the term Zionism.
Yes.
People associate with a political construct. It's mentioned Black Lives Matter. Like it's become a buzzword that has a negative connotation. But let's peel it back as to what is it Zionism really? It's really about a homeland for the Jewish people who have been in exile for thousands of years.
Yeah. Zionism is the national aspect of the Jewish nation religion. The Jews have always been a nation religion. Only in the last 100 years we've tried to sort of like unpeel this, and there was a process of denationalization of the Jewish nation religion in the United States, and as I discuss in the book, that has failed. And we have an attempt to sort of de-religicize the religious aspect of Judaism in Israel, and that also has failed because you see a lot of secular Israelis consuming more religious experience while staying seculars, and also there's a shift in Israel from the secular minority to the religious traditional majority, which is about 60% of Israel. So Judaism has always been a nation religion. And just like you said, Zionism is a dirty word now. Judaism used to be a dirty word as well. Through understanding the opposition to Judaism, which is now happening through Zionism, we can sort of get into the state of Judaism.
Right.
So because a lot of time we were defined by the outside.
Right. Now let's also talk about, addressing the United States, for example. I mean, it's a prime example of how, Judaism has evolved. There are people that are Jewish that don't necessarily identify with Israel or Zionism as a construct, but we're seeing so much violence over the past year. It's like, so explain, is being anti-Zionism, anti-Israel also being anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite simple. I mean, it's an artificial separation of Judaism. I'm not saying that people should elect to identify themselves as Zionist or not Zionist. I'm saying this is the way it is. This is de facto how people look at Jews. They look at it through a prism of Zionism. As part of my research, I went to a lot of far-right websites, including some anti-Semitic websites, and I saw how they describe George Soros and the New York Times. The derogatory term was mostly Zionist. Both the New York Times and George Soros would not like to perceive themselves as the flagship of Zionism, but the people that are opposed to them look at them this way, and certainly Friends as well. I mean, there is the attempt to separate the Jewish religion and to kind of reduce Judaism and says, I'm just a part of the Jewish church, but not part of the Jewish nation, doesn't really hold in any type of objective tests.
Right.
That's not the way people look at Judaism. And Jews themselves who look at this way are also secular, that became secular. So the religious aspect of the Jewish nation religion in America is very weak now. So that's why there is a trajectory towards evaporation that occurs with American Judaism over the next few decades. Israel is where they meet their Judaism, and particularly Zionism. So if you're a Jewish last name and you walk into college campus and somebody says your people are murdering the Palestinians, you may not even be Jewish, or you might be a quarter Jew or half a Jew, but it forces you into your Jewish identity. You have to react. You can say, I agree, I disagree, I have no opinion, but it forces you to react. And when you mentioned about anti-Zionism, we saw a lot of Facebook posts a year ago during the conflict with Gaza, including for my friends, that says, as a Jew, I'm embarrassed about Israel. As a Jew, this is horrible. As a Jew, they never write as a Jew about anything. There's not as a Jew, right. I believe this parasha or this
the only time you broadcast as a Jew is when it's to say something negative about Israel.
Whether it's in the positive or negative, this is where you meet your Judaism through Israel.
And that's very hurtful.
Depends to who. I think this is, on the one hand, and on some level, this is a very natural process because the Jews, a nation religion, left. 2,000 years ago, they came. 2,000 years later, they came back. So it's somewhat of a simple story. Some of the people who've been reading the book has been out for over a month now, in the beginning comment, some are saying, well, I'm glad you said it, but this is pretty obvious. Of course Judaism is Zionism because, just like 2,000 years ago, there's a transformation when the Jews went to exile. It was no longer about the temple because it didn't exist, and it was no longer about the sacrifices because you couldn't do that, and it was no longer about the physical presence in Zion because you were away. And it's possible that maybe somebody wrote a book there, Judaism 2.0, how Judaism is transformed.
On a stone, they carved it into a stone.
And now it's not about the temple, but about the synagogues that replaced it, not about the sacrifice, but about the structural praise that replaced it,
right.
Not about the physical presence in Zion, but about the yearning to Zion. And somebody might have said, I love the Jews. I love the Jews who worship in the temple. I love the Jews who do sacrifices, but they don't. That's been gone for hundreds of years. But I hate the Jews who go to synagogue and celebrate Chanukah and wear a kippah. These are the Jews I hate. So once there was a recognition that Judaism back then, maybe 2,000 or 1,000 years ago, is transformed and is now anchored in rabbinic Judaism, in the religious aspect of Judaism, then you couldn't hide behind this kind of fake facade that you love the Jews, but you hate the most relevant aspect of Judaism, which is rabbinic Judaism. That's what the Jews are, living in those
right.
places in Europe and around the world and the Middle East. So I'm saying this, the same thing is happening right now. Judaism is transformed, and this is the most relevant aspect of Judaism, and that is why the opposition to Judaism is funneled through Zionism.
Right, right. So let's also talk about, because when we were talking about Talmudic Judaism and also talking about the 3.0 aspect, we're also in a time of, the B'nai Anusim and a huge awakening, around the world of people discovering, Jewish ancestry, and whatnot. Yeah. And then you have the stories of, being able to be a Jew in whatever way you're a Jew. So how does this now apply because of all of the restrictions from the religious yes. Talmudic Judaism as a way of survival? How do we evolve to this next phase as the cycle now continues, as more and more people are discovering this?
Yeah, so Emily, that's very topical because, and I think that's why this conversation that I'm presenting in the book is important. What is Judaism? Where are we what is the state of Judaism, as I say in the book? You know what,
actually, I'm going to interrupt for a second because we have more coming up after the break, and this is, I know, a very long answer. So let's wait until after the break so we can delve more deeply into Wonderful. It. So stay with us, and stay with us, everyone, as we discuss more on this very, very important topic.
The book is basically what we spoke about now, outlining the thesis that Judaism is transformed and Zionism is its anchor. But then it asks, so what? So what in terms of the opportunities they will provide, that this Jewish clarity will provide, but also in addressing the threats. And I do a threat analysis, and in my view, the primary existential threat to Judaism is Israel bashing that has replaced traditional anti-Semitism. And that has become dogmatic. That is, a very
scary.
It is very scary.
I mean, this is coming up in public schools in the United States, and so many. It's becoming a platform.
For
things that are not relevant.
Not relevant, and it's not some fringe crazy people. It is mainstream people. A lot of my friends, and it's very serious. I mean, like accusations that we commit crimes against humanities. That's becoming a fact. That we sexually assault Palestinian women in roadblocks. All of those things. My friends, who are educated, sophisticated people, view that as a fact because, for their point of view, they're right. Amnesty says so. Various agencies of the UN say so. Credible organizations and publications say so. So this is an existential threat because now there is the mechanism to basically take away our state. We now have an ongoing investigation in the International Criminal Court against, for possible war crimes against humanity by all Israelis, basically settlers, people who purchase stuff in settlers, soldiers. So in theory, like if Israeli starts worrying about traveling because they might get arrested, I mean, this is a very far-fetched thing, but there's a lot of those kind of stuff. So Israel bashing is an existential threat. There is the mechanism, and therefore, by recognizing that Judaism and Zionism is one and the same, that changes the nature of the threat. People can no longer hide by this artificial kind of facade that, oh no, I love the Jews, but I'm helping the Jews actually by going at the Zionists.
Right, wow, very fascinating. Thank you very, very much, and congratulations. I know it's been many years of work to get it done, and it's available on Amazon, and it's doing quite well. So congratulations.
Thank you.